I'd like to call the Thursday, February 8th Plan Commission meeting to order. Mr. Martinez, could you call the roll, please?
Mayor Nelson is excused. Commissioner Hogan is excused. Commissioner Shogo.
Here.
Commissioner Haley.
Here.
City Engineer Morrow is excused. Alderwoman Day.
Here.
Commissioner Leon.
Here.
All right, we have quorum. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next on the agenda, item B1 is approval of the regular meeting minutes for December 21st, 2023.
Move
Any-
to pass.
Okay, I have a first, I have a second.
A second with one correction.
Okay,
Item 3, the last line in the paragraph, or second last line, has my name misspelled. It's correct elsewhere in the document.
I'm amenable to that amendment to pass the minutes.
all right. Yes, and I am serving as chair tonight in the absence of the mayor, and I will be voting due to quorum. All right, we have a first, we have a second. Is second okay with that amendment?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving on then to item C1, we have a public hearing. The Hamid area exception, request for lot coverage increase to allow for a single-family dwelling upon property located at 7780 West Faith Drive. That is Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. Good evening. This is an area exception request to increase the maximum permitted lot coverage. The lot coverage is the area of the lot that can be covered with structures such as the dwelling, decks, garages, sheds, etc. But it doesn't include pavements such as the driveways or any walkway. So this request is to increase from the maximum permitted as of right lot coverage of 25% to 27% for a single family dwelling with a proposed deck. Basically, the addition of the deck is that will kind of reach and pass the maximum permitted lot coverage. Staff review the application and did the calculations for maximum lot coverage. So the Unified Development Ordinance states that area exceptions may be granted, but with a maximum of 20% over the permitted lot coverage. So in the calculations, this request falls within the allowable increase that can be approved by the Board of Zoning and Building Appeals. So tonight is the public hearing and recommendation before the Plan Commission. And then this application will be presented to the Board of Zoning and Building Appeals for decision later this month. Staff did a site visit. It's a vacant site, so no site compliance issues were discovered. There is a comment from the engineering department in the staff report reference to the stormwater management, that the impervious surface with this approval would be over what is allowed for the plat. And the applicant submitted an authorization from the adjacent property owner, that is the church located here, basically authorizing this owner to utilize that impervious surface for this increase. So that was submitted to the engineering department, and that addressed that comment. Staff is recommending approval, and I'm happy to answer any question that you may have, and I have the public hearing notice.
Questions first?
Oh, you can read the notice.
All right, Mr. Martinez, why don't you read the notice, and then we'll call the applicant up.
Notice of public hearing, City of Franklin Plan Commission. Hearing date Thursday, February 8, 2024. Place the Common Council Chambers of the Franklin City Hall, 9229 West Loomis Road, Franklin, Wisconsin 53132. The applicant, Salma Investment, LLC property owner, subject property located at 7780 West Faith Drive. Tax key number 79202720000. The proposal, per section 1510-0209, area exceptions may be granted to increase the maximum lot coverage by no more than 20%. The applicant is seeking an area exception to allow for a lot coverage of 27.8% for the installation of a deck, exceeding the R6 maximum lot coverage standard of 25%. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the requirements of Section 1510-0209 of the City of Franklin Unified Development Ordinance. The legal description of the subject property and application materials are available and open for inspection by the public in the office of the Department of City Development at Franklin City Hall during normal business hours.
All right, is the applicant here? Okay. Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing, so, and we'll have questions from the commissioner, so I don't know if you wanted to come up in case there were questions that you would want to answer, or if you have anything that you want to add out of the gate. Okay. All right, then I will open it up to the commissioners if there are any questions. Yeah, Commissioner Haley.
Just a comment, if I might. I'm supportive of the exception, but I think we in the Plan Commission need to be aware. We keep approving subdivisions with lots that are on the small side for what the public is demanding, and we see enough of this coming around that I've made comment on other projects, but let's be cognizant of that. We should be approving marketable lots, and there is a desire for people to have larger homes and patios and pools and such. And we seem to get into this a lot, so let's be diligent moving forward. Thank you.
I will have a couple of questions that I got from neighbors, but I'll wait until after public comment to address those.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Then I will open the public comment. Anybody, if you just want to have a seat close to the front, and then we'll see if there's any questions from the public. Anyone from the public wishing to discuss this matter? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And Commissioner Leon?
Thank you, Chair. So I did get some questions about the use that I think you addressed in your application. They're actually from neighbors who are to the north and slightly west. They're on, I think I always get this street wrong. It's in my neighborhood. I think it's Canterbury. Whatever 77th Street becomes going west, it's Canterbury there? Okay. So basically, they wanted to know specifically what your uses are going to be for it. And from their perspective, it's to do with light, noise, and traffic. I looked at the application. I had a conversation with them afterwards. I think they understood. But just if, for the record, we get you to come up and talk about what you're planning to use the larger deck for, that would be great. And for that, invite you back up to the microphone, give us name and address, and then answer those just during the... And we do need your name and address for the record.
My name is Wasim Hamid. The address for now or for the property?
The property is fine.
Property's fine.
It's 7780 West Faith Drive, Franklin, Wisconsin. The coverage is going to be for the deck. The deck is about 180 square feet. It's not too big. We have a barn behind the house. It's for us and the church. So we really don't have a backyard to sit at. So we need something to sit behind the house, like, because the ground behind is going slope down for the barn. So there's no backyard, basically.
So fair to say, just for your own family purposes and entertaining others? Okay.
For family purpose, because there's no backyard, basically.
Shukran. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, Mr. Martinez, do we have a motion?
A motion to recommend approval of an area exception to allow for an increased lot coverage of 27.8% for a proposed single-family dwelling, exceeding the R6 as of right lot coverage of 25% for property located at 7780 West Faith Drive.
So moved.
Have a first, have a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, then moving on to,
Apologies, Mayor. What's the meeting date for BZBA, Mr. Martinez? So will this be on our February
The 22nd,
22nd?
sorry, the 21st.
February 21st will be when this goes before Board of Zoning and Building Appeals. So we'll see you then. The next meeting is the Board of Zoning and Building Appeals, which is effectively the final approval for your deck. I'll be right here.
all right, then we're moving on to business matters. D1, Croatian Park Pavilion Site Plan, request for approval of a site plan amendment application to allow for the development of a new pavilion to replace the existing stage pavilion and other existing buildings in the northwest corner of the park upon property located at 9100 to 9140 South 76th Street, tax key 884-9995-000, and this is Miss X.
Thank you, Chair. So this is for Croatian Park. The property is zoned P1 Park. It's located immediately north of the new Carmex development, near the intersection of Ryan and 76th Street. The existing conditions, it's important to touch on what's already there. Currently, there is an existing pavilion. This is not really a change of the way the park is being used. It's a consolidation of the existing facilities and addition of some amenities. So this is a natural resource protection plan that was originally produced as part of an NRSC that was approved previously. They are also planning on adding this dry detention stormwater facility, which has resulted in some impacts to wetland buffer here. There's a mitigation area related to this on the eastern edge of the property, and this conservation easement must be recorded as a requirement of that NRSC and is also a requirement of this approval. So that recommended condition of approval is in your packet. So I want to note that the project area is limited to this development. So this is the northwest corner of the property, the dry detention basin, existing pavilion. This is a grove of mature oaks with a parking facility and a number of buildings beneath it. We're not suggesting that this currently be in a conservation easement, but that is generally something that we would recommend once we've determined the full scope of development for this lot. So this proposal tonight is limited to the pavilion development. There are discussions of, and have previously approved resolutions for a turf soccer field, which that approval has expired, and a future approval would be required if they wish to develop that. And we'll talk a little bit about how the park is being used tonight, but I do want to note that this application is focused on the pavilion itself. So the Natural Resource Protection Plan is here for you and was in your packet. This is the proposed site conditions. So we will look at a detail of this momentarily, but there will be a new pavilion roughly in the middle of the conservation area. So again, this is that grove of trees to accommodate just under 300 people. There's a discussion of parking requirements, and I note that parking requirements are generally driven by occupancy or like the number of people you expect to be using a facility. And so this pavilion has a capacity of approximately 300 people. There's a fire pit proposed. The fire department did not have any concerns or commentary about this. An additional bocce court, additions to buildings, and then a bathroom, which will have a deck on top of it. And again, the stormwater pond. So let's take a closer look, just so you can see the detail. This is an existing parking area that is unimproved. So at this time, it is gravel beneath the trees. All of the parking facilities on the site are unimproved. And we are requiring that this be improved as part of this site plan approval. So the Unified Development Ordinance does require that a surface be paved with curb and gutter. The applicant has already included a curb and gutter in the installation of their stormwater facilities along the western portion. But in order to make good improvement on the overall conditions of the site, we are expecting that they will improve this parking area as part of their overall development. If you take a step back, you'll see that there's other parking facilities throughout the park. This is the northern parcel and a second southern parcel that is not part of the discussion today, but does include parking areas and additional fields. And so because there are many users for this project or for this property, we're hoping that they can sit down and hash out where they're actually parking as part of a future proposal. So that is one recommended condition of approval as well. There has been a lot of discussion in the city lately about sound. There will be an amplification system for the stage that's here. The applicants have provided us a basic sound study for this and are able to limit the overall volume to within what is allowed by the zoning. And so we don't have concerns about that, but we're noting it for the discussion. And just to note that, again, that there is a previously approved but now lapsed site plan approval that may be coming forward. So recommended conditions of approval are the conservation easement, improvements to the parking facilities here, and then that conservation easement will have to go to Common Council for acceptance. And then there's some minor technical corrections to the site plan. There's some dimensions that are missing. So broadly speaking, it complies with the requirements of the UDO. It's actually a really attractive building. So if you'd like to take a look, we've got the facades from the sides, the east and west. And there'll be a nice kind of red roof and stone facades. Overall, it's a good design. We think that this is a great project. We just want the parking to look better. So, any questions?
I will go if anybody else. I was going to go last, but okay. So I have two, and I don't know, Ms. X, if you can answer them, or if the applicant is here, it might be
They are here.
more toward their. So I noticed also with the parking, it does mention a reduction in parking as well. My concern with, you've already addressed the gravel, but my concern with the number of parking spaces, the pavilion that you're building now, roughly 300 folks. Is that more than the current one that you have, like capacity wise? Is this increasing capacity,
It's basically keeping it the same.
keeping it the same?
And we have more area coverage now for inclement weather.
Okay,
And because the other
Sure.
pavilion was smaller,
right.
you could still have the same number of people, but not.
Now they're just under
And we had
something.
a separate weather shelter as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to become the bathrooms and the deck.
Okay, and then for like
Chair?
your,
Chair, could we get name and address
Oh,
for the
sorry,
record?
yes.
I'm sorry, Tom Kuzmanovich, 5671 Francis Court, Greendale. I'm the president of the Federation of Croatian Societies, the applicant.
And my name is Tony Zanin from Pinnacle Engineering, 20725 Watertown Road, Brookfield. I'm doing the civil survey project.
and then for your bigger events, so the Beer Garden Thursdays, Croatia Fest every year, like I said, my concern is reducing the parking spaces now that you have this nice new, facility. It might, entice more people to come out, especially during inclement weather. So I just want to be cognizant when we're talking about parking, that we are, making sure that we're not shorting ourselves on parking for people when they're coming.
I wanted to add the comment. So the pavilion occupancy sets the capacity of the required parking. Event parking is separate. So we do allow parking on grass for special events, and they do seek and obtain permits for the different festivals that they have on the property. So that is an important point, but the site plan currently complies with the requirements specific to the pavilion, and then those event permits do allow for occasional parking on grass.
For example, we have for Croatian Fest every year and any other special event, like we had one in the fall with a band that came from Croatia, we did get a special event permit. So we had plenty of room for parking. Otherwise, the parking that we have currently, and which is included in the plan that the Pinnacle Engineering put together for us, does meet the needs that we have for our weekly beer garden. I think one thing you need to understand is that it's a seasonal beer garden. That's a 3-season pavilion, so it runs mainly from maybe the weekend before Memorial Day until, depending on weather, mid-October. During this time of year, it's empty. It's not used at all because obviously it's cold and wet and snowy.
So you're confident that the reduction will still meet the needs of your busier summer season?
Yes.
Okay. And then
I just want to point out, we're not reducing the parking on site. The parking on site that's on the proposed site plan is still going to be the number of stalls there. We just, as far as a site plan approval, we asked for the reduction just to, essentially, that's the commitment for the pavilion for the number of stalls. So we're not cutting out stalls.
And then I had one last question about the sound monitoring. And thank you for, taking the time and effort to go through and do that. I'm sure the neighbors will appreciate that. The only thing I wanted to note as a follow-up that wasn't in our packet, and if you haven't thought this through yet, that's fine. It's still a little ways away, but something to keep in mind is how will it be monitored to make sure that it stays, at that threshold? How often is someone going to, be checking it? Is it, by or calibrated, is someone going to be checking it, every month, every few months, at events or whatnot, just to make sure that, once it's set up, it stays at that threshold?
I think we have the dB level that was provided in Ring and Dew's analysis, and we're going to make sure that that dB level is maintained either through Ring and Dew or we'll have our own ability to check that. One of the reasons we made the stage go sort of northeast was
Yep.
to stay away
from, yes,
the neighbors.
exactly.
And then the way the stage used to be, it went west toward, or east toward the House of Correction, but still it was open. So we're hoping, and one of the reasons to point it that other way was to make, we were sensitive of our neighbors, and our neighbors have been really actually very good, and we've had great communication with them. So hopefully that's going to, combination of keeping the decibel level low and the way the stage is going to be pointed is going to fix that.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, there hasn't been any issues with anything in the past either. I've just, crossing all the i's, or crossing all the t's, dotting all the i's on that.
I have one thing I would like to just address, and I realize that the issue regarding the paving of the lot and the gravel lot is something that we may not be able to avoid. We've been around since 1956, and I realize that things changed since then in terms of ordinances and requirements. We have a park that's pretty much a rural feel already, and the gravel parking lot there, as we said, isn't used year-round on a 5 or 6 or 7 day a week basis, 365 days a year. The paving would be a considerable expense added onto our project, and I don't know if there's a methodology or a way to either delay or extend the time by which we can pave that, or even eliminate the need for paving. But that's something that I wanted to just bring up to the commission.
Yeah, Commissioner.
Just a follow-on question to the chair's questions about parking, right?
Sure.
So if I'm following the logic, the concern is parking going somewhere else, potentially across the street or on the street on South 76th Street. So I don't go that way often when there are events going on, but currently when you have events where you're getting more people out, spring, summer, and into the fall, I think you are having some issues with people parking elsewhere off-site because of the parking capacity currently. And it sounds like this would reduce it and also expand and encourage more people to come out. What measures, and I see the staff suggestion in here about reviewing the overall parking plan, but what measures are you currently doing and would be able to do to discourage parking either on 76th Street or in the subdivision across the street, causing traffic flow issues?
No, that's a great question, Mr. Leon, and I can tell you from experience, having been at most every beer garden, either attending or working it, we've never had an issue with parking on 76th Street, not even during Croatian Fest, nor across the street in the subdivision. And as a matter of fact, we have Carmex is a great neighbor, and we're in discussions with them about having overflow parking in their lot, and they are amenable to that. So,
Okay.
I mean, that is another plus having great relationship with Carmex, and they are, have been in support of our project, and we obviously support theirs. So I think that will hopefully addresses your question.
Okay, good. Yeah, that is good to know that you're working with Carmex on those parking. And I'd make a comment that perhaps the residents to the northeast.
Is that weather?
Yeah. Someone's phone. Not mine yet.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we weren't all about to go to the
Bomb
to
shelter.
the basement. Yeah, maybe the guests at the House of Corrections would appreciate the music coming across from there.
They
But
probably have over the years.
yeah, good Croatian music. So thank you very much for addressing that concern.
Any other concerns?
I've been there for a number of soccer events and soccer tournaments. I've never seen a parking issue, really. There seem to always be parking, and that would probably be one of your heavily attended activities, right? The soccer tournaments?
Yes, soccer tournaments for sure. And, a lot of people park off-site, meaning like at Southridge, and then they kind of caravan in too. But we haven't had that, fortunately, we haven't had that issue. And people know the soccer club and the federation are both very, we have a lot of communication, and people know not to park on the street. I mean, it's dangerous to park on the street.
I've noticed you've always had a lot of attendance, guys and gals helping direct people into the parking spots too. So I haven't seen that as a problem there in the past.
Thank you.
And then, Ms. X, we do have a revised draft, if you just want to, for my benefit at least, the revision between this and what's in our packet.
Yep, thanks for pointing that out. I mistakenly, it's because this was based on a prior resolution for a different site plan amendment, left in some information about a soccer field. That's not part of this approval. So this reflects that change, that it's specific to the pavilion. I also removed a draft indication someplace in the document, so.
City Attorney?
With regard to the request for a potential extension of time or some other method of avoiding the paving?
So this discussion, there is adequate facilities on the site. So they have enough places to put cars. The real issue is that none of it is improved with curb and gutter. And all of that area that is covered with gravel is considered impervious surface by stormwater regulations. And the UDO additionally requires that parking be improved. So the goal here is that they incrementally develop a plan for how to organize parking on the site that is improved appropriately. So at present, this scope of approval is as narrow as it could be tailored in order to still meet the requirements of the UDO and give them time to formulate a plan. So staff is recommending that just one portion of the existing parking in the project area be improved at this time, but that future approvals would have to consider, especially because we have had some issues on the site with encroachment of gravel into natural resources and kind of a spreading. There's unintentional changes as they're doing maintenance to those areas. So we'd like to get a handle on that over time. I appreciate that it's not as rural as is desired, but if you are in the combined storm sewer area of the region, you are effectively in an area that's sharing urban facilities, and it has to reflect some of those requirements. So.
And with regard to the current provisions in the Unified Development Ordinance, there is no ability for an
No.
exception or anything.
No.
So it would require an amendment. If you
Correct.
consider that.
Commissioner Haley?
Well, just want to add that the curb and gutter, not the pavement, may be waived by the Plan Commission if the curb and gutter is not present on the adjacent streets.
Yeah, and we would definitely, if the thought of the plan commission is, in fact, we have to pave that line, there would be two questions for us. One is, could we postpone it to 2025? We fundraised and are prepared to do the building in 2024. The extra year would allow some fundraising for it. And then secondly, I would ask for that waiver, 15-50202E1. There is, as you mentioned, there is a waiver that the plan commission can say, you don't need curb and gutter, as he said. If it's not there, we don't have it on site. 76 doesn't have curb and gutter. The only reason we're putting curb and gutter on that west side of the parking lot is catch stormwater and get it in. Ask for that.
Commissioner Haley?
Okay, I'm just trying to get clarity here. You're looking for some relief on time. We're about to require them to have that parking lot paved because it's compliant with the UDO. And the rest of the site needs to come back at some point in the near future. We had done a previous approval for soccer fields, and reading the report, that didn't move forward in time, so you will be coming back to us.
Yeah, so the soccer field, I was part of that team when we were here, I think, 2 years ago. We had approval. At that time, we were just a conservation easement away from having full approval. And at that point, there was no discussion about paving the parking lot. So I think maybe the requirement for paving parking lots may have come up within the last 2 years. So this is kind of news to us. So, and I'm kind of coming full circle. So again, if the Plan Commission wants us to pave it, we'd ask for the curb and gutter waiver for this site. There is discussions with the Croatian Eagles are currently looking at revising the turf field location. They're in the design right now, so they may come back. Federation as owner would sign the applicant, but the Croatian Eagles would come in and be the applicant for their new field. At that point, I think that's when Marion's saying the parking in the middle of the field is really tied to the soccer field, so that's when we would look at it. And as Tom had mentioned, there's a lot of communication between the two groups, so at that point, you know, we could give a better, I mean, I've kind of shown the parking count on the north property, but we give a better parking count at that time.
And one of the reasons the Eagles are I don't want to say delaying, but waiting is because we don't want to submit plans that aren't meshed together, meaning that we have a certain plan and then their plan kind of conflicts with what we want to do in terms of the stormwater for the overall property. So that's why the question we had regarding parking, you know, the issue really for us is obviously if we have to pave, we will pave if that's the requirement. But we'd like to see if we could get a delay in when we could pave.
Okay, so I'm going to try this again.
Sure.
Then, at some point in the not too distant future, the Eagles, somebody will be coming back here with a revised site plan to reapprove the things that were previously. And what staff and I think we're looking for is, in the interim, to take a holistic look at your parking on-site, facilities-wise. Okay, can somebody tell me whether there's curb and gutter on 76th Street?
There is not.
Okay.
It's sure.
So it might be reasonable to forgive the curb and gutter at this point. But I guess where we at was still putting down asphalt. You could be paving an asphalt in anticipation of curb and gutter and stormwater management at a different point.
Sure. So this project is really a standalone project. We've got the stormwater management. If this is approved and we move forward and for whatever reason the Eagles decide they're not going to do the turf field, this is a standalone project. And I think that's why Marion kind of stressed early on where she circled the field and said this orange area is what you're really okay, because that's what we're really here for. If the Eagles, and we anticipate they'll be coming, they'll be on the rest of the northern property. So, but if they wouldn't come, we meet stormwater requirements, we would pave it sounds like we're going to have to pave the northwest corner, that northwest lot. We would do that. And I think for the pavilion project, to kind of bring this whole project full circle, we would ask to pave the northwest area in 2025, and we would ask for the waiver of curb and gutter. Then if the Eagles don't come, you're guaranteed in the city that lot would be paved, but it would be paved in 5. If the Eagles do come, there's going to be some interaction, and I don't want to get into the details, but we're communicating with them about stormwater on the entire property.
That's what I'm looking for, is a more holistic approach to stormwater management in general with the big thing.
Yeah, I don't want to get too into the weeds on that, but we will be working with them, and there'll be some things that come in, and you'll see the interaction.
Okay, thank you.
So I had approved a minor site plan amendment to allow for the footings and foundations of this structure to move forward in the fall just to let them work in the context of their fundraising time schedule. What's the overall timeline for this? Because your site plan approval is effectively in place. It's then the next point of permitting is occupancy permit, where I have an approval. So if you're thinking we're going to be constructing over the summer but don't plan to obtain occupancy until 2025, then I don't think you need anything extra. However, if you're planning on opening the facility in 2024, I'm not sure I have a mechanism to allow for a delay. So.
Well, we're planning on starting in the spring. Feels like spring now, but planning on starting as soon as it doesn't freeze again. Usually, hopefully at the end of March, beginning of April. And then we would anticipate that we'd be done this year. This is not gonna be a project. So we're hopeful that once we get started, mid-July, we'll be done. Early August. That's all, as you know, I'm sure supply chain related and all that fun stuff.
So you'd be seeking occupancy in July.
Well, I think that's the earliest, July. Possibly September. It all depends on the timing. Can't control. And if we don't have occupancy until September, we're still going to have our beer garden. We're not going to have it, where everything's torn down. And we got the demolition permit, so demolition is done. It's just, and we did not start any footings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so just, yeah. We wanted to go through this process first.
So now I'm going to make sure that I'm not confused. So with the parking pavement still in our current resolution right now, Mr. Martinez or Ms. X, can you explain the exception that they were referring to? Does that apply here? What does that all entail? So that we can have a clear understanding of what that is and if that actually applies, since it's been brought up a couple of times.
Tony has it highlighted because we were ready for, so we can give it, I don't want to have to
Oh, do
delay.
you have the section number?
Yeah, 15-5.0202E.1.
0202. Okay, yes. Concrete curb and gutter required for all off-street parking areas. Concrete curb and gutter shall be installed surrounding all new driveways, parking lot, and landscape island. This provision may be waived by the Plan Commission for additions to existing structures located in areas without a predominance of curb and gutter when curb and gutter is not installed on the adjacent street right-of-way or is not anticipated to be constructed on the right-of-way in a future street reconstruction in a reasonable period of time. So it applies to the curb and gutter.
Your expertise, does that exception apply in this? Could that exception apply in this instance, in your staff opinion?
It's for an addition, correct?
Where I'm getting stuck now is the verbiage about the addition, where this is a new structure, is where I'm getting.
I believe that was my interpretation as well. I mean, I reviewed it against
Yeah.
the ordinance.
Yeah.
So
That's how I'm interpreting it now that you read the full thing, but I want to make sure I'm not the expert on any of it, so. Okay. All right, anybody else have any questions or concerns? Yes, Mr.
I
Haley.
guess I'm just going to try and go for clarity one more time of what it is we're contemplating doing. I'm of the mind that it's okay to forgive them the curb and gutter at this point in time, but do we want asphalt or not? It's supposed to be paved and a bit more difficult to implement stormwater management on a gravel surface, et cetera. So I guess we just all want to be clear on what it is we're looking to approve here.
Yeah, I think my interpretation is that it has to be.
Paved.
To the extent that I have review of permits that going forward, I will have to approve, there is a timeline where these improvements must be made, and I cannot approve an occupancy permit without the approved site plan having been resolved. So, unfortunately, that only gives them a certain amount of time overall in relation to their overall development timeline. I recognize the constraints with fundraising, but the UDO stands, so we've been as narrow as possible to make it not too punitive.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to allow Alderman Holfer, who's the alder of the district, a chance to speak. He did raise his hand.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I just had a question for clarity. So if that exception was granted, we know that north of Hutes, there's curb and gutter and sidewalks. So and I'm just throwing this out, 15 years from now, the county comes through and does that, then would that automatically trigger them needing to do that? Or just so we're all clear on what the limitations of that exception would be?
Didn't visit the site, so.
Mic's off. City attorney's mic.
No, it's not.
It's off. Now it's on.
I thought you said within a reasonable time. I don't know that 15 years is a reasonable time to make them do it.
I am not familiar with,
I'm just saying, would that, if only curb and
If it happened in 15 years, my thought would be no, because this ordinance says reasonable time.
this project area, it's part of the new TID as well. So we do expect that there will be increased traffic volume, et cetera, in the area. I don't know if that'll change the county's overall plans for the road, but it is a consideration.
If anybody else has that, I'm going to go back into regular order, if that's okay.
We can.
Okay, motion to go back to regular order.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Haley.
Okay. Let's try this again. So, what if we pass the resolution that we approve the site plan, exclude the curb and gutter at this point? I don't believe that the county is going to make an internal property put in curb and gutter. They'll do their street, they'll do to the right-of-way lines, and there's no reason that they would have to, so it's a Franklin thing. So if we forgive them on the curb and gutters and decide that the parking lot needs to be paved and stormwater in place sometime in early spring or summer, because chances are with the timeline I heard, you'll be struggling to get a building built, and by that time, you won't be able to get hot asphalt. So is it reasonable to then have you make all the preparations and not put the actual asphalt down to some point from spring or early summer? And does
Spring or early summer, Mr. Haley, of which year? This year or 25?
25.
Yeah. Yep,
You'll be in construction this year.
Yes,
The site will be a mess and you'll have silt fence up.
yes.
And I'm guessing that by the time that you're actually done and ready to pave, the asphalt plants will be shutting down and you will have a hard time getting asphalt. So if we gave you till spring, that gives you a chance to do some additional fundraising, saves you the expense of concrete curb and gutter, and ultimately the site is secure
Yes,
for stormwater. And the whole goal is to be able to capture the stormwater and manage it.
correct. Yes, that would be, obviously, if we would appreciate that.
Staff?
Does that fit the timeline of will we run out of?
So the site plan approval is valid for 1 year, and from the point that they start construction, then it's considered to be
Okay, so-
in place. I just have a question in terms of at what point would we enforce the requirement if building permits are issued without having clarified if this is resolved. So I will also say, like, I want to be clear that there will be requirements in the future about this. So just that future development will also have to address the parking issue of curb and gutter. So, I mean, I guess in terms of an overall timeline, if you want to issue the approval now and then we can come back to it in the spring when we're inspecting for landscaping, et cetera, I guess that's okay.
You know, I've just got a question. I thought, would there's be a possibility for like temporary occupancy and then get the full occupancy once the asphalt is in?
Yes.
Yeah, my suggestion was going to be to make it a condition of occupancy.
But I heard they want to be having some events out there yet this fall.
Right.
So it would have to be temporary occupancy with full occupancy come spring or fall
Next year.
next year, 25.
25.
And we obviously will be in contact with Marion like we always have been.
That
Thank you.
work? All right. Who captured all of that for a motion?
Point of order, my questions are easier than Commissioner Haley's. I just want to throw that out there.
Sorry, excuse me, can I the microphone?
All right. I'm just going off
Be the
of,
same resolution with an amendment to it.
Right.
We have to
Amendment to
we have to
conditions.
authorize the site plan.
Yep.
City Attorney.
With a condition, providing that curb and gutter will not be required for this particular site improvement, and that parking lot for this improvement, pavement thereof, shall not be required to occur until, let's say, June 1, 2025, and until pavement is completed for the parking lot, a temporary occupancy permit may be issued to allow for the use of the premises as newly developed pursuant to this resolution.
Commissioner Haley.
Thank you, City Attorney. I would make that motion.
Okay, we have a first.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to the commission and our aldermen for supporting us as well. Thank you.
All right, moving on then to D2, Rural and Urban Areas Map Update. Proposal to redefine the rural and urban areas as provided in ordinance number 85-860, regulating truck parking and raising animals. This is Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. Okay, the rural and urban map in the municipal code is used to regulate the sections for raising animals and parking trucks and equipment. So, for example, an owner located in the rural area may obtain a permit to raise horses or goats, sheep, but is not allowed in the urban area. So this is the map that we currently have in the municipal code. It was adopted in 1986, so it hasn't been updated since then. And the municipal code has a section that this map may be revised from time to time. So staff is recommending an update of this map. We can see, for example, that, for example, the apartments, the new apartments, the Vela Village, per the current map, are still considered rural. Okay. And property owners in new subdivisions, for example, the Ryanwood Manor or the Cape Crossing or Park Silker, are considered still rural. So that allows for the animal permits to raise horses. That's why staff is recommending the update. How the
Thunderstorm warning, half hour.
So what's the criteria that staff is using to redefine the new or the addition of urban areas? So basically, areas served or close to a public sanitary sewer or public water service, new residential subdivisions and planned development districts. These areas are recommended to be added into the urban boundary. And to keep as rural areas not served by sanitary sewer and public water service, and rural-oriented districts, or for example, the agricultural district, the prime agricultural district, conservancy, floodplain districts, park district, and conservancy residence district. The areas to be added, highlighted in red, so that's the new areas to be in the new map, and the yellow areas is the current map, 1986. The areas with the crosshatch are parcels that are within 100 feet of a sanitary gravity main. That was a criteria that was used to determine what areas to be placed in the urban boundary. So this map should not be confused with like an urban growth boundary or a planning for future development. It's just to regulate the sections for animals and parking of trucks. For legal non-conforming uses, last year the department issued a 1 animal permit, but this is located in the urban area, so it will not be affected by this map update. And there is a notice of change, but that will be in effect after the adoption of this map update. So no public hearing is required at this time for this update. Happy to answer any questions that you may have, and this will be the map that will be part of the resolution.
Commissioner Haley?
Thank you. I just wanted to verify. This is the map we're approving. This was the work product that helped us get to this.
Correct.
So we're not adopting this.
Correct.
There's some issues in here with areas within 100 feet of sanitary sewer. If you look in particular along 116th Street on this one, it's showing it hatched because technically that long, 1 mile long linear parcel does touch Ryan Road, but
Correct.
the whole rest of
Correct.
it is not, and it's not developable. because
Correct.
it's 70 feet wide. Okay, I'm good with that then. This is it.
I just had a quick question.
Yeah,
How will staff use this document versus all the other documents that you have? I know the animal licensing is one part of it, but since there hasn't been an update since 1986, is a document like this important?
For the enforcement of the animal section, yeah, it's important.
Okay, so that's the main focus,
Yeah.
is the animal, okay.
Do we know offhand if there are, or how many people would be, their homes would be reclassified from rural to urban that may have some animal that's no longer permissible.
We review.
I don't know if we know that.
Right, no, well, we review for active permits.
Right.
And there's only one active permits,
Okay,
4 permits.
got it. All right. Anyone else have any questions?
Have a motion?
All right, do we have a motion on this one?
A motion to recommend approval of a resolution redefining the rural and urban areas map as provided in ordinance number 85860 regulating truck parking and racing animals.
So moved.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item D3, amendment to Plan Commission Administrative Procedures, a proposal to change meeting frequency to once a month. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. This is a proposal by staff to the administrative rules of the Plan Commission to change the meeting frequency to once a month. The reasons for this is kind of to reduce the staff hours that are devoted to the preparation of packets, attending meetings, meeting minutes, and also for a more efficient use of commissioners' time. For example, last year, Plan Commission held 21 meetings, and 11 of them only have 2 or less items. We understand that there may be cons with this amendment, that, for example, if a project has a tight schedule, it may create a problem with that project. But according to the rules, the mayor may call for a special meeting when needed. According to the rules, a majority vote of the Plan Commission is required for this amendment. And also staff is asking for policy direction if this is approved to kind of select it will be the first of the third Thursday of the month. And also at your seats, I print an email from the city engineer kind of providing some feedback about this proposed amendment.
Thank you. I have a question for the city attorney. Is there anything that if we were to keep it as is and say something to the effect of if there were X number or fewer items for an agenda, that it could be canceled at the discretion of staff if it was not time sensitive? Or is that too vague for?
I believe that would be a direction from the mayor serving chair. One of my thoughts, when I first heard that there was only a quorum for the meeting, was considering what this is and that it's been there for decades. Perhaps you should have the entire membership here to consider it. But yes, that process could be done, but I would do it through the chair or designee. And just in general, when I first heard about this, I emailed staff with regard to answering a question about the process. And I said, however, the thought is that in one of the ongoing fastest growing municipalities, not a single applicant would be in favor, and the 1 meeting per month could easily go into the past midnight meetings realm. Oh wait, that was done in the 90s all the time. And 6-inch thick plus meeting agenda packets trying to meet deadlines for projects with multiple applications pending, etc. Ray efficiency. So that was my thought on it, and then I saw the email from city engineer today where basically he had the same concerns.
Commissioner Leon?
So first, thank you to the chair and the city attorney, because I am going to propose something.
give me a little cover, because I was pretty sure with what I'm going to propose, staff's going to throw things at me. So my proposal is going to be that we push this until our next meeting, when, one, we can have hopefully the full plan commission here. Two, I am in favor of the city engineer's recommendation, which is in the last paragraph, that says, perhaps we keep 2 meetings scheduled, but understand that routine projects with loose timelines won't be scheduled for the second meeting unless a tight project is on the docket. Staff will do everything in their power to shepherd projects to the first meeting, so the likelihood of canceling the second meeting of the month is high. That's from his comments. I would not be agreeable to it, that meeting being canceled at the discretion of staff, no offense, but rather to the mayor as the chair. I also, and I know the city attorney's not going to like this, but I also want to see this as a public hearing matter, so that members of the public would have the opportunity, without suspending the rules, to come and speak on the matter. I don't think that anybody necessarily will, but I believe that a change to this, to the precedent that we've had for however many years, should be a public hearing matter, not a business matter. I'm no doubt the city attorney has some comments on that, but once there, if there are any other comments on it, I am going to propose that we move this agenda item to the next regularly scheduled meeting, and that it be a public hearing item. So with that, I will defer.
City attorney?
I don't believe there's enough time before the next meeting to publish a public hearing notice.
So then the meeting after that, so that there would be enough time to do it.
Mr. Fuchs?
I would just add, just for consideration in the realm of having 2 meetings, I think in reality, and just, I guess my thought on it, or just added consideration, that I think with the pressures of a developer, a development moving forward, I mean, I think in reality, if it's on the books as a meeting, that's going to build, and it's going to still cause that, they're not going to get canceled. I think it's going to play out that the city will continue to have 2 plan commission meetings, which obviously, if that's what the commission decides, is fine. I just think how that plays out, it's unlikely when applicants and developers, they're always making that push, and I think there's going to be a lot of pressure for the city, the mayor, to just keep the meetings as is.
Chair? With deference to Mr. Fuchs' comments, and I understand what you're saying, I think over the past 3 months, we've canceled at least 1 per month. We didn't meet at all in January, right? We met once in December, and I believe a meeting being canceled there. So I think that the mayor, as the chair, while he will get some requests from applicants to not cancel them, has shown that when appropriate, and for what it's worth, maybe not as many cancellations within that short a period, but the previous mayor did cancel probably 2 to 3 a year because of the number of agenda items on those meetings. So I think there is precedent that despite that, those requests from applicants, that we can cancel them, but to have it, the understanding that they might be canceled more frequently as a part of this motion, I think would be useful.
Any other discussion? We do have, you did make the motion.
Yeah, so I will move that we move this agenda item to the next meeting where we can have it publicly noticed as a public hearing business matter, which would probably be the second meeting in March, I would think. The second meeting in March, so that, one, we can hear public comments if there are any, and 2, we can have the full, hopefully the full commission here. So I make that motion.
Right, is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay.
What is that exact date? Does anybody have their calendar?
21st.
21st?
March 21st.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to item D4, Franklin Public School District Site Plan Amendment. Request for approval of a site plan amendment for a building addition, parking lot, landscaping, lighting, soccer fields, playground, detached storage building, and stormwater management facilities upon property located at 8225, 8225, 8255, 8429, and 8459, West Forest Hill Avenue, tax key 838-9978001. And that is Mr. Fuchs.
So as you say, the Franklin Public Schools has a site plan application. There is a fair amount of modifications to the site. The building addition, new parking lot, multiple soccer fields, a playground, storage building, and then there are some walkways throughout. I'll first note within the plans, the applicant does have alternative bids that they'd like to choose from as they get bids for the project. Staff has decided to, or include a condition that those bids be reviewed and approved by staff. And then as long as they're really in substantial conformance with these plans and those alternatives, they'd be approved, but anything else would then have to come back to the Plan Commission. The plans also show boardwalks in areas that impact natural resources, wetlands, wetland buffers, and setbacks. Those are not proposed at this time. They did provide a note on the site plan. There's some corrections that will be made to that to make sure all of those improvements are included and shown not to be part of this phase. And there is a condition to that, and if the school decides to move forward, they'll have to apply for NRSC along with those improvements. I'll just go through kind of the site plan, some of staff's suggestions and recommendations. There is a fence, a black vinyl chain link fence with slats around the storage building and soccer field area. Staff's recommending that be a decorative fence similar to what is proposed around the playground area. The building addition as a whole with the alternative bid is 15,638 square feet. The parking lot that's proposed is 122 parking stalls. Staff's not objecting to that quantity. There was a conservation easement approved in 2017. That easement, there's a condition that be revised. There were some changes to wetland areas. A wetland actually does not exist any longer on site. That was confirmed by a DNR assured delineator. So they will need to revise that conservation easement for the entire site and have that reviewed and approved by the Common Council. Lighting, staff did have some concerns considering the site is adjacent to single-family residential uses. There's 15 light poles within the parking lot. They're at 25 feet. Staff did comment and ask some questions as far as if they were dimmable, if they considered a lower height, which they did, and the applicant pointed out that there'd have to be more lights then to provide what they're looking for from a lighting standpoint. So, and just to know, they're not dimmable lights. The soccer fields are not illuminated. There is a longer response from the applicant regarding the lighting in the staff report, trying to address kind of the glare issue that was brought up. The staff was also concerned with just that view of that light source from, again, the adjacent residential neighbors. But the applicant, lighting consultant, did provide a response and does not believe it will be an issue. The playground is adjacent to the two smaller soccer fields off of Forest Hill Avenue. It's surrounded by a 4-foot aluminum fence. The storage building is then on the other side. This is adjacent to Forest Hill Avenue. Staff did make a comment that that building be relocated perhaps to the south of the soccer field, so it's not right off of the public right-of-way, off of the road. We also recommended that metal not be used as a primary building material. So relocating that is a recommendation, or sorry, a suggestion, as well as the building materials in the staff report. Again, the applicant did provide responses that are in the report. Finally, staff did include just the standard condition for final engineering approval of the grading, road control, utility, stormwater management plans. So with that, staff's recommending approval, subject to the conditions in the draft resolution. Oh, and sorry, I did pass out an email from a neighbor. It's the property to the west. It's the larger, I think maybe about 5-acre parcel. So they have several concerns with the project, they noted.
Excellent. I thought that would be bigger. Thank you.
And Mr. Fuchs, is that the end of your presentation?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. I do know there are some folks from the school district in the back. Would the commission like them to come up for questions?
Yeah, I think a
Sure.
presentation would be appropriate.
Yeah, so if the school district and architect or developer, whoever is here that would be willing to answer questions and provide name and address for us, and then anything you'd like to add to the presentation.
Hi, my name is Devin Kack. My address is 209 South Water Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's Plunkett Rasich Architects. And yeah, I'm just here on behalf of the school district. I think the presentation was done well. The only thing I'd like to add is that the school district did meet with neighbors on 2 occasions, and we did review and try to respond to as many comments as possible. And the other emailed response, which were just suggested happened this week, and we were able to respond to those directly, I believe, last night.
I'm Andy Cromie, Assistant Superintendent for the school district, 8255 West Forest Hill. Major reason for the building is we have very, very limited space for daytime programming for any of our rec department. We currently hold a couple of classes at Ben Franklin Elementary, but in our kind of heightened state of having people in the building that don't need to be there during the school day, meaning children and staff. We are trying to find space, and really this would be developing space, but building appropriate space to take our youngest kids and our post work age individuals and get them daytime programming that they can use attached to, again, an existing facility we have. And then the kind of soccer field green space is just to provide more space for our rec activities. As was mentioned, there's no lights on it, so the anticipation of long hours of practice typically isn't going to happen long into the fall. And really is designed mostly for our Saturday programming, but I don't want to say that other things won't happen during the weekdays. Playground adjacent to, you'll see is adjacent to the road, is really given the size of soccer fields at different levels, whether it be U10, U12, U14. Those need specific sizes in order to qualify for our rec programming to play other communities. But adjacent to the parking lot, And then the storage shed as well was located specifically to allow maximum flexibility of that field size without butting into the wetlands to the south, and really to put it in closer proximity from a visibility standpoint for staff who will be managing the rec building versus having it significantly further down the pathway or farther down the property where sight lines are going to be a little bit harder to manage. Happy to answer any other questions that may exist.
Commissioner Haley.
Yeah. I think two questions. One, there's views and plans shown for an alternate clinic. Can you explain to me what that is?
Yep.
What that's got to do
So that would be a health clinic for our district employees and their families, designed to improve really our overall healthcare spend and provide a better quality of care for those employees. Not very typical, or I shouldn't say not atypical. I've been part of 2 districts where we've developed a internal clinic when I was in West Dallas and Oak Creek, where we have an on-site health clinic.
Okay, I'm not quite understanding how that's critical to the mission of education, but I can see where it's a nice amenity.
I would say when our healthcare spend is about 12.5% of our total budget, providing a way to help smooth that out over time is critical to the mission of educating kids.
And that's if the bids come in right and you've got enough money for it.
Correct. Yep.
And if not,
Doesn't go.
or in the future, it'll be back.
Possibly, possibly not. Yep.
Okay. And then I'm going through all the documents. I'm still not clear on what we're doing about this path supposedly to the south, the boardwalk through the woods. There's wetland impacts that probably don't need to happen, but where are you now? Is this what it is that you want to do, or are you coming back with that with the revised resource protection plan?
Yep. I'll bring up our civil engineer, but really the intention is to provide as much parking option for staff. Obviously, the change to Forest Hill, which we're super appreciative of, the no parking signs along Forest Hill. I know the neighbors are, but we are too from a school standpoint, and having standing cars on there is really a major safety hazard. But providing other options for people to park and leading up to our back parking lot at the middle school is really the design or the rationale for the pathway, but I'll have our civil engineer speak to the specifics of the path.
Just from a timing perspective,
I'm sorry, could you name and address of business?
Jesse Becker, civil engineer with Point of Beginning, 4941 Kirschling Court, Stevens Point, Wisconsin. So in regards to the pathway here, just from a timing perspective, the natural resources special exception process is quite lengthy, and they're not sure whether or not they're going to have the funding for this. It's an alternate for the project. So if ultimately the funding is there, then at that point they would proceed with a natural resource special exception to get approval for that boardwalk. So approval of that boardwalk is not on the agenda for tonight's meeting, I believe. So, and the point is to provide access to that parking to the south. And then additionally, the boardwalk itself will be, kind of just a nice thing for the community. You can kind of take a walk out there, see the wetlands, and just kind of, it'll be a nice place for, pedestrians to walk.
Agreed. If the funding isn't there for it, then what happens in terms of accessing the parking lots?
You can access from sidewalks to the north and kind of to the east. I'm not sure if the project you can see that further, but there are sidewalks to the east that could be potentially used to access from the district office's existing parking lot.
Or is there possibly an alternate route that goes south of the district offices? I see there's one path with less wetland impacts, but is there some way to utilize those walks that are there?
Which walks?
Well, somebody's pointing at one. There's others in front of the building.
Yes, so those walkways could be possibly used. And the public walkway there is already making a direct connection. It's just a longer walk. That's all.
Okay.
Correct.
I'm just wanting to see options, because
Yes.
this is one of the first things to get cut, correct? if the budget doesn't make, if the bids don't come in properly?
I believe so.
Then I see it listed as the clinic and that. So if it's done right, I think it can be a great amenity for the school and the communities. One thing, and I'm not going to get into too much detail, but the boardwalk, the plans that were put together, I'm not sure if that pier system is kosher with the DNR.
Oh, we have reached out to the
4x4
DNR.
posts on a wooden plate.
Correct. Yes, we have reached out to the DNR, and they have approved that design. In the DNR's opinion, that is not considered to be a wetland impact. Basically, the system, the boardwalk system, would be sitting on 2x6 posts, and there'd be a 2x10 across the length, and basically that 2x10 would sit on top of the wetland. So in the DNR's opinion, that would not be a wetland impact. So if we were to proceed, the DNR would not require a wetland fill permit.
Great, I just wanted to make sure that you weren't getting caught up in that quagmire, because
Yep.
now's the time.
Yes. Yeah, the wetland design, or the wetland boardwalk design was actually from a local reserve in Stevens Point, where they've used that design for years and they recommend it.
As long as the DNR's good with it, I think it's a great resource, science classes, things like that. And certainly the shortcut, people are going to find it either way. Okay, I'm done.
There's a lot of soccer fields. Well, where are those programs being held now prior to these being built?
So we do have some younger soccer programs at our elementary, specifically Robinwood. But for like our larger soccer field, those students, they travel outside through our rec program and play in other communities. We don't have opportunities to host games for them.
Okay, will the high school be practicing or playing on these fields?
I won't say that they won't practice, but they will not play games there. We have competition soccer field at the high school.
Okay.
But I don't want to say they'll never show up and practice there because I
Yeah.
can't guarantee that. But
So this is, and I noticed you have a storage building there, but are you budgeting for maintaining these properties and these fields and keeping them in good shape? Because it's a lot of work.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. That's all accounted for through our recreation department.
Okay. And I'm sure the neighbors want to see all this in very good shape too, so.
We very much do.
Okay.
Want to see it. So
Okay.
yes.
Commissioner Lowe?
I have several questions, but first, I do see some members of the public, so I guess, is there anyone who would want to speak on this matter? Or if not, I won't suspend the rules, but is there anybody who came here tonight to ask questions about this item? Okay, not seeing anyone.
Oh, there is someone just
Oh,
raised their hand.
okay, sorry, then, before that, motion to suspend the rules to allow for public comment on this agenda item, reminding folks that we need their name and address for the record. Make that motion. We need a second and a vote for it.
Second.
Barry Wysocki?
Just one moment, please.
Okay, I have a first,
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. If you could state your name and your address for the record for us, and then please try to keep your comments to about 3 minutes.
My name is Barry Wysocki, 8288 Four Oaks Drive. I'm directly on the corner, Four Oaks and Forest Hill. I'm not really against the facility, but it's coming before the city, and the city has not seemed to be too concerned with the traffic pattern. You're adding a lot of traffic, especially on weekends, because they used to play soccer where the old middle school was. It's a controlled intersection there with a stop sign at least. We're adding another entrance to the main road there through their parking lot. So when they are holding events, especially on the weekends, it just seems that it's going to be more of a traffic jam. Whereas if they could have taken that entrance onto Forest Hill, at least to the middle school, and then controlled it through an intersection that's already controlled with a stop sign, it would have taken care of any concerns I have. But that was my only concern.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on this item?
You're on your own.
Yovo Klobja, 8631 West Forest Hill. We live right next door to the west in that bigger property. I sent you that email. I don't know if you read it. Do you want me to read it? Or,
Has everybody up here had a chance to read it?
I did.
Okay, yeah, then just go ahead. We've all read it, so just go ahead with your comments.
okay. Well, like I said in the email, we were a little bit surprised by the scope of this plan because that's not what was told to us. The boardwalk. Originally, the boardwalk was going to be used for parking access in lieu of a parking lot. There wasn't supposed to be a parking lot here, but now there is a parking lot, so why do we need a boardwalk? So we are for the option of no boardwalk and no walking trail. I believe that's on page 92, option 12. Leave the wetland alone. There's a lot of wildlife there. We see it all the time. Everyone sees it all the time. With the boardwalk, you're right, it's going to be a shortcut. There's going to be people walking. Science class is great, but you're going to end up with a wetland full of Starbucks cups and everything else. So that's one of the recommendations. On this proposal, somewhere it says, I think it was the engineering notes, staff recommends providing a minimum 2-year plant replacement guarantee. Staff recommends buffer yard planting shall be maintained in perpetuity. I'm not sure what a buffer yard is, but I mentioned in my email that the school board maintain all the plantings and all the trees in perpetuity for the length in perpetuity, forever. So that's one comment I had. Mr. Fuchs, you mentioned something with the wetlands changing. There's a wetland that's not there anymore. I wasn't aware of, where is that wetland that's gone now? Like, what was a wetland that is not a wetland anymore?
It was in the area of the building addition.
Okay, all right. Is that wetland marked, like there's a black tubing all the way along the back? Is that the wetland marking when you walk the property?
I'm not aware of it being marked on the site.
There's like a black tubing. It looks like it's marked with that black tubing.
I'm not sure what that tubing would be.
As far as the playground, we would prefer not to have a playground. In the emails today, I got some of those emails, but one of the neighbors mentioned putting trees in front of the playground, and the response was, we don't want trees there because we want the police to be able to patrol and see what's going on in there. So there's already a concern with a problem with police and people hanging out there. Put another field there, put some more trees there, leave the benches, make more green space. So we are against the playground. The walking trail, I don't know why we need a walking trail around the soccer field. In fact, to me, if you're playing soccer and there's an asphalt track around it, that seems a little unsafe for the little kids, but whatever. We're against the walking trail as well as that boardwalk. The other question I had was fencing. Are the fields fenced all the way around? Because I thought we eliminated fencing on our side, on the west side.
Fields have fencing on the, each field is not in the field to the far left is not fenced.
And we did meet with the school board. We appreciate you guys putting a buffer there, setback, so we are protected in the back. Like I said in my email, this was just supposed to be fields, no buildings, no lights, no parking lot. I understand it's for the benefit of the community, but we live next door. We've been there for 30 years. We've had to deal. We built a house. We dealt with the wetland and all the other Franken rules, and now it just seems like, we should leave that wetland alone. The fact, our location of our house, in fact, is there because of that wetland. We had to put our house on our 5 acres on that specific spot, which ironically is the closest to this whole development because of the requirements of the wetland and that dead-end road behind us. And ironically now, we are closer to this development than we would have been if we put the house where we wanted to. Fencing, lighting, parking, 122 stalls. I agree with the neighbor. That's going to be a huge amount of cars. 122 cars. So we're expecting a lot of traffic. If you've been on Forest Hill at school time, at school bus time, it's a nightmare already. So now we're going to add 122 more cars on the weekends when usually it's quiet. So that's something else to consider. I don't know, can we use that parking lot in the back and decrease the size of this one so there's less traffic on Forest Hill? And then the lights. I know you're doing your best to keep them, as unobtrusive as possible, but there's going to be lights there. So we would prefer no lights, but I guess we'll have to live with some lights. Miss anything? That's all I have.
Thank you.
Overall, I understand this is a good thing for the community, but it impacts the neighbors, the street, and Forest Hill is a busy street as it is, so another 122 cars is, I just can't imagine what the weekends are going to look like there with all this traffic. Thank you. I went over my 3 minutes, I'm sorry.
Hello.
Hi, Cheryl Williams, 8424 West Forest Hill Avenue. My house is directly across from what would be the smaller soccer fields. We're the first house that faces the street from the corner of Four Oaks. I just wanted to go on record to show that I totally agree with Perry's assessment and his assessment on the traffic flow. That's my biggest concern. We already see a lot of traffic, obviously, with the middle school, in the morning and late afternoon. This is going to be traffic all weekend, depending on what's going on. And having it at the controlled intersection would help them immensely. Already we see traffic backed up the street. So yeah, I guess I would just like to reiterate the traffic is a concern for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, do I have a motion to go back into regular order?
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Mr. Lamb.
So I have many questions and comments that I would like the applicant to address. Few disclosures first. I know Assistant Superintendent Cromie as Coach Cromie for my oldest child, and have seen, he ran the youth football program, very well organized, very capable, as he's displayed already, to address the concerns of, in this case, neighbors. But I am disappointed that the superintendent is not here. When Forest Park Middle School was proposed, however many years ago, the superintendent was present to address concerns of neighbors. So not a slight to you, Assistant Superintendent Cromie, but I believe that Superintendent Bennon should be present. And candidly, I believe there were also members of the school board at that meeting so they could address that. Now, I understand you met with the school board, but members of that elected body should be present at a meeting like this. And I also believe that we suspended the rules in this case, but this should have been available for public comment. Final disclosure, and this goes to a couple of the comments from neighbors about traffic. Absolutely a concern of mine. I have been driving that route sometimes on a daily basis for the past 3 years, and it's awful. And a lot of it is behavior of parents dropping that off. We understand the intersection. It's just not well designed for that, and parents do what they want and candidly put their kids at risk at that intersection out of a sense of being too busy. So that's a comment to the whole community, and anybody who, this is for the record, anybody who's driving to Forest Park Middle School daily, don't drop off your kid and hold up traffic and have people trying to go around you because you think you've got a meeting to be to. And the direction I go is on 83rd Street, so it's a little bit different what you're talking about, but you all see it every single day. So, and I'm facing that for about the next, let's see, my daughter's in 3rd grade, so she'll be there in about 6 more years of driving in there and doing drop-off. And I think everybody agrees it's a difficult situation. So I do believe, my point on that is continued coordination with the Franklin Police Department. They have, at times, put cars out there literally to block people from some of that behavior. But I think it's going to take a lot of effort on the part of the district staff in coordination with communication, right? Effective communications from the district. Sometimes those communications are difficult to understand. I'll be candid on that. But also with the police department to get better controls there. I think that covers all my disclosures. Thank you for that. Going to a question you got, Mr. Cromie, earlier about the clinic. You got that from Commissioner Haley. And I think what you were saying is that effectively for staff, that having that clinic available would help recruit and retain staff at Franklin Public Schools. Is that a fair assessment?
It certainly will do that, yes.
Okay. And of course, it has to come under the cost concerns that Commissioner Haley, but it does help have staff at the district. So
Correct.
Traffic impact outside of drop-off and pickup times, right? What has been done either from the civil engineer or someone else to assess how that would impact, and I'll give some perspective. If you have a Saturday when there's a wrestling tournament hosted there, and maybe some other activities, the existing parking sometimes is gone, especially if it's in the winter when there are stalls not available because of snow movement. But what consideration has been done for the impact of traffic on the neighborhood outside of normal drop-off and pickup at the school? So basically using those fields, having additional parking. What studies have been done on how that would impact traffic at that intersection, 83rd and 4th?
As it relates to this facility?
As it relates to the expansion here, correct?
Yep. So we haven't done an official traffic study. What we've worked with recreation is to assess essentially start times and end times of games, so that if we're playing, say there's 4 or 5 fields there, we wouldn't start them all at 9:30 and wouldn't end them all at 10:30, so that 122 cars need to file in and file out at the same time. So working on their staggering of game times to help ease that traffic flow, or really to cycle it, I would say, in a more fluid manner, would be the most appropriate aspect for that. I will address the use of the middle school parking lot entrance, that corner on 83rd. We did evaluate. That was one of the first things that came out of our June meeting with neighbors. And our parking lot to the south, in order to accommodate an actual drive lane there, would have pushed that parking lot into the wetland. So that was one of the first pieces. It would also have required us to take our buses, which are parked what would be in the lower southwest corner of our existing lot, and relocate them to a different location, whether that be at the middle school or some other location, rather than having them on site where a bus driver office is, as well as our truck, delivery truck also in there. And then with having traffic back and forth, and having employees walking in and out, both that work at the ECC as a full-time job, but also our staff who come for multiple meetings throughout the course of the year, would have created some additional hazards just from an employee standpoint and walking standpoint. But it was one of the first things that we evaluated. We had it drawn up, took a look at it in relation to what does that all do. And then ultimately, in order to have enough parking spots just for the employees who work there, would have removed the green space that's a buffer between the road heading into the middle school and the parking lot, which essentially would have put cars right up to the road leading in, face to face, or I should say face to side of cars coming in. So that's why we determined to not try to make that particular piece work, given those constraints around that.
Okay, thank you. So you addressed many of those concerns. Sort of similar question, and it goes to the neighbor to the west's question about the playground. There is an existing playground at Forest Park Middle School, right? It abuts what would that be, the northwest corner of the school?
We do not have a playground there. So this is a play structure for younger kids, right?
Sure. Okay.
So the idea behind the play structure, fencing it, we originally had put a 6-foot fence around it. Coming out of our second neighbor meeting, that was requested to move to 4 feet to make it more visible, for fear of having children hanging out there. So that was brought, actually a change that we made based on the neighbor's recommendation of a shorter fence, again, for easier sight lines from our second meeting with them.
Yeah, and I guess I want to clarify a couple of, the area I'm talking about is where there's basketball courts right next to school, and I believe that students enjoy a recess during the school day.
Correct.
It is not a playground, I think what's being described here. This is more a playground for younger, play area. Okay, thank you for that clarification. But, and I think that addresses what I was going to go with it. When there are events at the middle school, that play that basketball court area is often used for parking, so overflow parking effectively. Sounds like that would not be the case in this design because it wouldn't be suited for it to be a play area. You wouldn't be able to.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. That would
Okay.
physical play structures for kids. to
Right,
play in.
okay. Thank you for clarifying that. So I think I have just two more questions. One of the consulting folks with this application talked about addressing the concerns of neighbors. So we had the neighbor here immediately to the west. You obviously talked about meeting with the school board, but you had some others. What was the result of that? Were you able to satisfy their concerns? And if not, what are the continued concerns that neighbors have? We know about light, right? And we know about foot traffic on the walkways, but generally speaking, and maybe some specifics, what concerns were you able to alleviate the concerns of neighbors on?
So I would say the biggest concern would be the far west of that. So you see the kind of tree line to the far west. Our original plan was to put the same black fence up, slotted fence along that entire side. At the request of our neighbors, that was moved away in favor of a tree line or, whatever plantings along that side versus having the fence there. The ability to then increase that buffer as well. So we slid that entire soccer field to the east was one concern. The fence along Forest Hill and ensuring that that is slotted or covered in some fashion. The parking signs do help, but making sure people would not be able to park on Forest Hill to be able to watch the game. I guess unless you have a semi, maybe you'd be able to see over, but ideally you're not gonna be able to park there to watch. Was another of the concerns. We're not gonna get away from lighting. We have to light the parking lot per regulations. And we want our rec building to be used as much as possible as well. Now, it won't be open 24/7, but it'll be open at some point in the morning till classes run till 9 or 10 o'clock at nighttime to get as many things into the building. So we're not going to get away from lighting per se, but it won't be on 24/7 either. And I would say probably the biggest concern was that parking lot or trying to get a south access to that through the existing intersection. But for the reasons stated before, it just doesn't work. It's not going to work out without displacing a whole bunch of other pieces to do that.
So you just raised another question. I think it's probably not a concern, but if you're doing slatting to prevent people from parking there to watch what's going on, is it going to have any impact on site triangle? I don't know if I used the right word, and that's probably a question to staff, because there's an intersection there where people going, I think it won't, but I just want to clarify that obstructing view there won't impact kids running back and forth.
Correct. That's been verified from our architects, civil engineers have taken a look at that.
Okay, then I think my final question, the storage shed to the west, the comment here from, I'm not going to try and pronounce the last name, apologies. Jovdiova. I'm sorry. To me, I think that would be a buffer, an additional buffer, a structure. But I guess I want to understand, it seems like you're still going to move forward with that location. But is there anything that can be done to address the concern specifically about that shed to the west?
So really that land, I don't want to say it's not usable because we could have put a soccer field on there. So we've eliminated a soccer field to move that closer to the particular area. Removal of a soccer field will also mean less people are coming in any particular day because there aren't as many places to play. And really what we didn't want was putting that soccer field in a place where we limit then what can be done with the land. So we don't plan on changing it to anything other than soccer fields, but the ability to slide a soccer field east or west or north or south by a few feet for name a myriad of reasons why you would do that. The ruts are getting in it or cutting or something like that. The placement of that shed and that limits then how you're going to use the land for safety purposes or into the wetland. So we want to avoid that as well. And again, we wanted sight lines or as close to the facility as we could. From as close to our existing facility as we can from a sightline standpoint. and practical use for employees to put equipment away related to the positioning of all of the fields in general, because that will store soccer goals and like a hose reel for watering fields and things like that.
Would there be any temporary lighting? And what I'm thinking of is like at the high school with the practices go on, they have temporary lighting, generator fed, so that when it's time to put all the equipment away, it's there. But that time could be, 9 o'clock at night, probably not that late, but could be disruptive. So would you be using temporary lighting in that area?
The intention is not to
return?
put temporary lighting up
Okay.
there.
Then I thought you just reminded me of one other thing. But I've lost it now. So I will yield back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Haley.
Thank you. I understand what's going on. All said and done, it looks pretty good. I'm really concerned about the pedestrian automobile safety at the entrance to the parking lot. Has there been any attempt to have discussions with the city engineer regarding traffic impacts? I mean, basically, you've got the existing entrance, which is a four-way with stop signs, and it's already, as we've heard, taxed. Now we're going to put another entrance in a couple hundred feet away it's a three-way intersection, left turns. I can see where this could be 3-4 times as bad as it is now because of the two driveway entrances.
Sure.
Okay?
So I
I
think
just don't know who's going to deal with these impacts. And 3 years down the line, when we're having problems with children and automobiles, I don't want to be revisiting it then. I will suggest, I've been looking to see if there's an alternate solution. In theory, and one doesn't negate the other, but you could utilize the existing entrance and bring a drive-through that comes just, I've got it now.
To the south?
Whatever, to the south of the existing building, the administration building. It would go, unfortunately, right through your alternate location for a clinic, but there is a way you could still have this road. But when times were busy, or if the city engineer felt there was a need to actually close that, you can force the traffic to the east, where you've got 4 stop signs, and bring it in that way.
So that's what I explained to Mr. Leon. We reviewed that impact, and for a myriad of reasons, have chosen not to move forward with that. Again, wetland delineation, the safety of people walking in and out of the office every day. But I think from a traffic standpoint, because my office faces right out onto Forest Hill, I think we're confusing the beginning of school day and the end of school day with what happens during the rest of the day on Forest Hill.
I'm not.
So for 40 minutes at the beginning of school for 176 days and 40 minutes after school, 83rd Street and that intersection, that's pretty rough. But for the rest of the time, Forest Hill is not a major thoroughfare of cars.
I can respect your opinion on that, but I don't think it solves the problem. You are going to have issues with everybody coming at peak time, coming and going, and I know you can stagger the games, but they're all going to be fighting for that same entrance in a 3-way intersection with traffic that's already, I'm not saying it's going to be a chronic problem every day, all day long. It only takes once for a tragedy to happen.
So
And I understand what you said, that you originally looked at that. I'm going to suggest that you look at it again. It's possible to do it right here. I'm looking at the wetlands and the setbacks. It's already paved area by and large.
So the use of those fields are typically not going to be done during the day. They're going to be done after school, so the entire school day will have ended. And games aren't played during the week for recreation. They're played on the weekends. So again, not affecting the school day.
I appreciate your comments. I can't believe that. Can't accept it because we know parents come and go from schools all different times. There's no rules that say it's only in the morning, it's only in the afternoon. Drop-offs, kids work late at school. All I'm asking is, have we looked at this? We talk about other projects, traffic impact analysis. You're now bringing additional people in. These aren't people that are already coming to the site. These are people that are coming here just for these games. And I would like to think, and I'll listen to the regular in a minute, but that there would have been a lengthy discussion with the city engineer about traffic impacts onto that street and how we can mitigate the inherent threats that are there. More stop signs. What are we doing? I mean, basically, the site plan works for you, and I get that, but does it work for the children?
But again, those
Safety.
game times don't impact school. We won't be playing games on there when cars will be coming. When the massive influx of cars coming to pick up or drop off students at the middle school will not be crossing times at all.
Okay, so then you're gonna put a gate over the other entrance so people don't go into the school. The situation you're telling me is ludicrous. People come and go from schools all the time.
I understand that particular
And all
piece.
I'm concerned with is when you got a game coming and going and you're backing traffic up out on the street, waiting to make a left turn or a right turn, there's gonna be impacts there. And I would just think that that would have been one of your biggest concerns. I know all about site plan and design. This is what I used to do. I'm looking at it here, and you're creating a potential hazard. And all I'm asking, and maybe Regular has the answer, but has engineering staff looked at this closely and done whether they need to do traffic counts or whatever it is? But we're about to approve a site plan that has no recourse. And the first time that there's a near accident or something fatal, then we're all gonna go, oh, what could we have done differently? So I'm asking for that due diligence here. Just look at it.
Regular,
Yeah.
before you jump in, I also have a comment on that intersection that you might add to your comments. I'm looking at it from those perspectives, but I have another question about it. My concern is the traffic flow as well as the volume. I'm thinking about, trying to make left turns in and out of this driveway as people are coming and going from games, even if they are staggered. But in addition to that, I'm concerned about the neighbors directly across the street, directly across Forest Hill from this driveway. You made mention that the soccer games wouldn't be occurring at night, but that the rec building itself would be open into the evening. Now, this driveway faces directly out into homes across the street, so there's going to be light pollution of people coming in and out of that driveway into the neighborhood. And, we live in Wisconsin, so, half of the year it gets dark at 4:30 p.m. So my concern is, have you taken into account the timing of the events that would be happening at that building and the light and noise pollution that would be coming from those cars in the evening to those homes that are directly across the street?
So the home directly across the street from the entrance, that is their garage. So we have looked at multiple locations for that entrance. Nothing is great. That was the most amenable location for that particular entrance. The building will be used at nighttime, there's no doubt. Again, the idea is that it's going up, we're going to try to use it as much as we possibly can. So without entirely relocating that driveway again to the south, and for those reasons, we felt that that was not nearly as workable as this. That was the option we chose to move forward with.
I wanted to mention that according to the ordinance, the Plan Commission may require the submittal of a traffic input analysis for site plan applications.
Thank you for that. Mr. Leon?
So thank you for that, Mr. Martinez. I will definitely ask for that to be added to the resolution. Mr. Cromie, if you could address, I think this gets at maybe some of what Commissioner Haley was talking about, but what would be the earliest start time after the end of the school day for an activity to start on these facilities? Because I think that's getting at what you're talking about, those 40 minutes at the beginning and more so at the end of the day in this case. And because, correct me if I'm wrong, 3:15 is at the end of the school day at Forest Park Middle
Yep.
School? So, but there are activities that happen right after school that then there's a lot of pickup at 4:30. I did it today, right?
Yeah, so there's simple basketball practice, wrestling.
Right.
practice.
So, yeah, exactly. Thank you. So for these facilities, what would be the earliest start time for those to be used so that you're adding traffic potentially to when there's traffic from pickup activities at,
Yeah,
and
so-
one caveat on there, those pickup times for activities after school, they're not nearly as bad as drop off and pickup. There's some more, it's more the parking lot itself. That intersection, you don't typically have a lot of traffic at pickup at 4:30 or 6 o'clock or whatever. It's not,
Right.
it's not nearly as much volume.
Yep, so that facility will be used all day. One of the things we'll work on with the recreation, so there's going to, a yoga is going to be in there and whatever, pickleball will be in there. But even like our pickleball court is meant for 8 people. So potentially 8 cars, I guess minimum of 4 probably. Really, it's working with the rec department to say, like, if your class is an hour long, it probably needs to be like 2:30 to 3:30 or 2:45 to 3:45. So we're avoiding kind of that cars are coming before the peak time, cars are ending after the peak time. It's really worried more about the scheduling. So there won't be 122 cars there, probably except on a soccer Saturday.
So, okay, then next question to the city attorney. Is there any way that we can, as the city, restrict certain times? So specifically that, we'll call it hour around pickup time. So call it 2:30 to 3:45, where they would not be permitted to have activities there so that the traffic impact is not worsened by activities for this, this proposal.
I'll defer to planning staff.
Can we basically black out time that says there cannot be activities at these facilities at pickup time during the school year, right? It's not going to make a difference after the school year to say from, I'll say 2:30 to 3:30 tentatively. No activities may be scheduled. Everything during the day has to end at 2:30. Everything starting after school has to begin after 3:30 so that we're not adding to the traffic issues that we've discussed a few times. And maybe that doesn't make sense, but it's just where my mind's thinking to not have this worsen the traffic situation there now.
Yeah, Plan Commission may add hours of operation of a condition of approval.
And basically, hours of operation, saying during this period, you may not, right?
For a specific activity, yeah.
Obviously, I'd want to hear your opinion on that. My guess is you don't want to do that, but
Well, I think we're really overstating kind of the daily use. So the parking lot is designed for soccer Saturday. It's not designed for everyday use where we might have 10 people doing yoga and 12 people doing a karate class and 8 people playing pickleball. Like, that's what we're talking about during the day. We're not, those classes don't have 30 people in each of the 2 studios and 30 people on the pickleball court, generally. Now, I'm not going to say that's never going to happen, but typically that's not what's happening. So our classes right now, they're spread throughout the city and we're utilizing space. We're trying to get that under the same roof and have all of those hours coming to the rec department, as opposed to rec department essentially helping registration for other businesses and help our rec department. So I understand the concern because I work there. I see it every day. My kids go to the middle school. I've driven it for years, pick up, morning. So I see all of that. And in looking at the rec programming and what's anticipated going in there, I don't see a massive influx of cars. Again, outside of soccer Saturday. Soccer Saturday is going to fill the parking lot. But typically during the school day, going to be a minimum amount of cars. The clinic itself has an opportunity to have 3 people per hour at max peak operation. So that's like, you are cranking it out and you're getting 3 cars an hour to use the clinic. So that to me is like, that doesn't even matter at that, like from a traffic standpoint. But again, our classes aren't filled with 30 people at every particular level. And our major space is designed for 8 people during the course of the day being pickleball with pairs on 2 courts.
Yes, one last comment's what I led with, and I'll finish with it. Although Assistant Superintendent Cromie addressed the issues, to Superintendent Menon and Chairman Sprague, when matters like this come up, be present at these meetings as the head of the school board and the district staff. Be here going forward, please. Thank you.
Further comments, Commissioner Haley?
I'm trying to keep it simple. We're being asked to approve the site plan. I have, and some other people have expressed concerns about safety and site flow, how it all works. One solution is for us to require to do a traffic impact analysis and an additional analysis, I think, by our city staff that have to deal with it. The TIA is just going to say, here's where the problems are and here's what you could do. Somebody needs to come up with a viable solution. That's going to take time and that's going to take money. So meantime, we're being asked to approve this. And I understand because the next things I would hear are that you're putting this stuff out to bid, you've got a fixed budget, you need to get those bids back so you can decide what you're doing. So I'm trying to think of a way that we can make this work and address what I believe are safety concerns. There's a playground here. People will be coming all throughout the day. This is, you're creating an activity node. This is a park. And that's what I used to do. And all I'm asking is how can we make it safe? So that we all know it's safe, not based upon, well, we think the scheduling and there'll only be so many people. Sometimes sunny days, a lot of people come out. So I don't want to hold the project up, but we don't have the answers. Because even if we require the TIA, it still has to be done, and then we should be looking at that to see if the issues are being done. And as I said, the additional review and comments from staff, I think would be critical. So I'm at a loss as to how to move. I mean, right now, I'm tempted to just deny or to lay it over, and you can get these answers and come back, but that's not what I want to do. I just want to make sure that the safety of Franklin citizens is being taken care of here. This is more than just about buildings and parking lots.
City Attorney?
How about put it over to the next plan commission meeting for review by the city engineering department, city police department, and city fire department for their recommendations.
And I'd be good with that, but I'm prepared to hear the part about how that's going to screw up our bidding schedule and all the work that we're trying to get done in a hurry so that this can be built. But if you're amenable to that, I think it's an excellent solution. We need answers.
Well, these departments, the project gets routed to these departments.
I want to see
mean,
somebody
they can take a specific.
I want to see them
look again,
specifically
but
address
it
the
was-
concerns that I brought up.
Yeah, I mean, I would say sometimes when, as a former department head, when we look at these, we look for kind of the headings from the planning department, and traffic, I don't think was on here, so it may not have been something that then clued them in to think about the traffic piece of it. I mean, I can't speak for them, but as, you know, a department head, when I would get those, I would scan it very closely to see what related to the health department, and if there wasn't anything I saw, then I wasn't, you know, reading it for, you know, context of something that wasn't in my purview. So that may have been what happened.
I'm just looking for some answers, and I don't want to mess up the project.
To the chair, I believe Alderman Hofer had some comments, so I think we would need to suspend the rules again. You did, so, am I correct? So I would motion that we suspend the rules specifically for the alderman to be able to speak on this matter, not the rest of the public.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Can you go to the mic?
Mike?
Can you go to the microphone?
It's been mentioned that yes, Ed Hope for 8058 South 77th Street, Franklin. It's been mentioned that the drive to get in and out of the parking lot was moved to line up with the neighbor's driveway and garage to avoid the lights. But I can anticipate, excuse me, that there will be times where it could be quite challenging for them backing in and out of their own driveway when there's all those cars coming there, especially with the traffic that's already there. So if you're going to look at the traffic, I would ask that they take that into consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Motion to return to normal business?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I would think it would be.
I guess I would ask, do we need to go to the second meeting in March, or would they be able to do that? Oh, before, sorry, I was thinking March. Yeah. Thank you. Then to the applicant, would you be amenable to having that review to bring this matter back up on the 22nd of February? Is that going to disrupt your timeline?
It won't disrupt our timing, but I think we have a meeting that night, so I don't know if anybody from the district would be able to be here.
Yeah, obviously I want superintendent and
Oh, yeah.
so,
That too.
so then, I guess then, Mr. Cromay, what about, and I don't know the date off the top of my head, the first meeting in March?
March 7th.
March 7th, yeah.
March 7th?
The 22nd. Yeah, we have something, right?
So would you be amenable to March 7th then, which would be,
It appears we can make the 22nd work. I might have been thinking about the 21st.
so if that's the case, then yeah, I would make the motion.
It is possible that there might be a quorum issue on Plan Commission on that particular day.
Okay.
There are a few of us that have another engagement.
So then, Mr. Cromie, then the March 7th meeting, timeline-wise, does that disrupt anything? And then schedule-wise, would the district, preferably the superintendent and chairman, be, I know you can't speak for
Well, I
them,
can't
but-
speak for them,
right.
so. We don't have anything district-wise, but I can't speak for them personally.
Okay.
Whether they do or not. I'm not sure what that does to our timeline. Obviously pushes bidding, but
Any delay in bidding, obviously, that could impact costs because people are bidding on projects, securing work. And then if we come next in line, then the fee would be higher on top of that. So, yeah, the timing of all of this has been predicated on, just like the previous applicants, trying to get out ahead of everything. Be here in spring. We've had multiple meetings with the city staff and hoping that everything has been reviewed, and it looks like potentially this traffic thing wasn't reviewed as much as it could have been. So I can just share that as a comment.
Thank you. I guess then,
Sorry, yeah.
understanding the assistant superintendent's comment that is effectively much ado about nothing, right? That it's not going to have that much of an impact. I do think it's appropriate to push this over to the March 7th meeting for all the reasons we discussed. And there are no other comments. I will make that motion to push this to our March 7th meeting.
I'll second it.
Mr. Fuchs, did you have a
Oh,
comment?
no. Fine.
Were there any other comments that we should be aware of for any of the other portions? I just want to make sure we're hearing everything so that we can come back and have everything that anybody wants.
My concerns, I think I made clear about the safety of the entrance coming and going from it. My concern is we're asking for a traffic impact analysis, and I'm skeptical about whether that can be turned around in a couple of weeks.
I guess a clarification, I was under, you were asking for police, fire, engineering department review, not a TIA.
That's the motion I'm making, not the traffic impact analysis. So
First question that all those departments are going to ask is, what is the volume? What are the times? That's what the TIA does. So I agree, we ultimately want these departments to do it, but if I were in engineering, these are the questions I would need before I can make a decision. How many total daily trips will there be? What are the impacts? And just so everybody understands, this is different because we approved the site plan. This doesn't go to the council. If this was going to the council, I'd have a lot more comfort in saying, you guys are the elected officials. You figure out how to make your community safe. But we're here as a recommending body, but in this situation, if we approve the site plan, it's approved. So the good news is, if we approve the site plan, then you don't have to wait much longer for another council meeting. But the bad news is we need to get the answers in a timely manner so that we can make it happen, so.
So then a question I might have to you, Commissioner Haley, is by having this review by departments to specifically look at traffic, the recommendation could come back from those departments saying we need a traffic impact analysis, and then we would address that on March 7th. I'm sure you're not thrilled to hear that, right? That we might come back and say, yeah, we definitely need a TIA before we move forward. But I think that moving this agenda item to March 7th gets the review of fire, police, and engineering to say, we're good with it because we don't think TIA is necessary, or we do think a TIA is necessary and you should not approve, recommend not approve it. Does that kind of make sense?
That works for me. And again, in the interim, you might want to be thinking about what sort of information gathering can be done. If we're going to ask for questions, they're going to want some answers. So maybe a summary of total anticipated trips and hours of operation and conflicts, those types of things, because that's what a department head wants to look at. And I'll be quiet.
So I think the motion still stands, right? We just are saying that the departments will look at whether a TIA is needed and then make it in their recommendations to us as a commission.
All right, so we have, Mr. Fuchs, do you have that motion? And city attorney? Or do you need Mr. Leon to
I can restate it. You want me to restate it? I'll restate it. So I'm motioning that we send this back to staff, respectively, police, fire, and engineering, to give us a recommendation by our March 7th meeting on whether or not we move forward with this. That's my recommendation, or my motion.
I
Is that
still
your
second. Yep.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item D5, Forest Home Commercial Condominium Plat. A request for approval of a condominium plat for property located at 11217 West Forest Home Avenue, tax key number 748-9961-001. That's Mr. Fuchs again.
As you mentioned, this is a condominium plat. It's for a property, a commercial property. They'd like to create five separate condominium units within the existing building. There are no site or building changes proposed, so this is really an ownership change for the building. I believe the owner intends to sell the individual units. So staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
A motion.
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
My bad. Yeah, I should listen first.
I had to find it.
I withdraw that.
A motion to approve the condominium plat for the Forest Home Commercial Condominiums located at 11217 West Forest Home Avenue, subject to the conditions in the draft resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D6, Dairy Queen site plan. Request for approval of a site plan for a new Dairy Queen for property at 7730 South Lovers Lane Road. Mr. Hamel.
Yeah. Good evening. I'm a new face around here. I'm the new associate planner for the Department of City Development. Nice to meet you all. Thank you. So this project is for the development of a multi-tenant commercial building, specifically 3 tenants. The lot is currently vacant. The proposed building on the site plan is approximately 8,300 square feet. There are 67 parking spaces. As you can see, there is a drive-through here for the proposed Dairy Queen. This has previous special use approval. They also have special use approval for a second tenant as a liquor and tobacco business. And the third tenant is currently unknown, relatively. The 67 parking spaces is so that they can provide the maximum number of spaces for any general retail if they need to, or a restaurant. As it concerns landscaping, we did have some comments about that with, there are existing decorative trees on there, but they were not listed originally in the landscape plan. We have had discussions about that, and so we have decided to add that as a condition of approval that they provide the decorative trees and their species. And then we had an original conversation about outdoor lighting on the, let's see if I can go back. Okay. On the original lighting plan, along this property line here, they had exceeded the number of foot candles. But as we found out, there is an existing lighting pole here that was contributing to that is off the property. And so we have decided, after further discussion with the applicant, to remove that condition of approval. And I believe we are recommending approval of the site plan contingent on that resubmission of landscaping to be approved by staff.
Thank you. We have the applicant here, so anything that you would like to add before we open it up to questions?
Again, for the Plan Commission, Nick Fuchs, 2000 Fairhaven Boulevard, Elm Grove, 53122. This is a project I was representing the applicant, property owner, prior to coming on board. But I think Luke covered the site pretty well. And the issues, the landscaping condition, we have no objection to. It's just going to be a matter, I think, of providing the species of the existing trees, which we can do, but otherwise the quantities are in conformance with the UDO.
City Attorney?
I was turning off the speaker. That's why I touched the speaker. I was misinterpreted. My actions.
And are you amenable to the requirement about the light plan as well?
I believe that condition is
we're gonna-
proposed to be removed.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Because it is an existing light pole.
Any other questions or concerns? Do we have a motion?
A motion to approve the site plan for the construction of a multi-tenant commercial building for property located at 7730 South Lovers Lane Road, subject to the conditions in the draft resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Before we go to adjournment, a question for the city administrator. I think I know the answer to, or the director of administration.
This public hearing notice change doesn't require any action on our part, just, it was purely informational. Okay, thank you.
And I move we adjourn.
Second.
A first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.